Welcome to Clause 8. You're watching a short clip from one of our full episodes, featuring real conversations with the leaders shaping IP.
So obviously, Senator Tillis, Senator Coons, and you have been working a long time on PERA and PREVAIL. At the end of last Congress, we saw them actually on the full committee hearing agenda. PREVAIL passed by a vote. At least the committee. PERA didn't quite get there. Like I mentioned, this Congress starts. There's a big press conference. I'm like,
Yeah.
what does Peter Anthony know? We might be over the hump with those. And I guess, where do you think those stand? And I kind of,
I was listening, like I mentioned, to your previous podcast.
Yeah.
Just in general, I sort of this past week was sort of reflecting on a lot of stuff, and it's something I've said before. Is you miss all the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
And I know it may sound cheesy, but it's true, right? And so it's easy to sort of say, something's probably not going to happen, or, oh, it's hard to do, or it's unlikely. Sure. But the point is unless you're willing to put in that effort, it's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah.
No one's going to wake up in the morning and decide to pick up patent eligibility jurisprudence reform or PTAB reform as an optional thing to tackle. There has to be a drive to do it, and all the better when it's a genuine drive. And so, you have to approach it that way. Otherwise, if you give it anything but your all, you have zero chance of it moving forward. And so, the Senators believes in these bills for sure, right? I mean, this is, and so therefore he's going to champion them and push them forward. So the goal has always been to move the ball forward. And a lot of folks will say, "Oh, look, this is not going to pass." I always hear it's not going to pass, or nothing's going to happen with these. And
which is a safe bet in Washington, I get.
What's that?
It's a safe bet in Washington. Something
well said. No, exactly. Well, that's something I was thinking about listening to something, another one here. No, extremely well said. And so to my point of that is right. It's a safe bet. But look what's happening. First of all, look at IP legislation in general. AIA didn't move quickly, right? No patent reform really moves quickly. But look what has happened, right? Look how many hearings. Look that the fact that you just mentioned PREVAIL went to markup. And regardless of how close it was, it made it out of markup. That's a big step.
Yeah.
Now, folks that are not keen on it moving forward will be quick to dismiss it, because why elevate any step that was against their interests? But that's a huge step. And it did, I can tell you for a fact, people opposed to it took note of it. And I surely got nervous, because they're like, well, we never thought it would get that far.
Yeah.
But of course, once it gets that far, then they go, oh, well, it'll never get on the floor. Oh, it'll never pass. It's always right. It's always,
right.
And that's a theme I'll probably touch on later, because it's even if we get to talk about legislation, same thing where you want to invite people to the table, as the senator say, beyond the, at the table versus on the table, as the senator says. A lot of folks will say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's like, well, no, you have to iterate. You have to take these steps. And so anyway, getting to markup was huge, right? Because what did it signify? It signified that it was on the radar of staff and members to a greater extent than if it didn't go to markup, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get the attention on a bill like you will when you notice something for markup, and the staff have to then rec yay or nay for their boss, right?
Yeah.
So that was huge. PERA, in PREVAIL, we tried to move in parallel. We did have to pull. The senator did make the decision to pull PERA, because it's also extremely more weedy than PTAB reform, right? Senate Judiciary folks can sort of equate. Okay, we get district court to PTAB, even though not the same. Standing requirements. They can just sort of, okay, I get what's going on in this bill. Patent eligibility jurisprudence reform. Yeah, no, that's a bigger mountain.
Yeah. It's complicated for patent attorneys. So.
Yeah, I mean, that gets to where we've talked. You and I've talked about. It's difficult for everybody.
Yeah.
Patent attorneys prosecuting, drafting patent applications, examiners examining them, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the litigation part of it. But no, I mean, it's extremely complicated. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I was an examiner during a lot of the 101 changes from the Supreme Court, and lots of times attorneys would say, and this is during prosecution, which is, the egg versus the chicken, right? You don't even have a patent yet. You're in the prosecution stage. And they'd say, I've boxed myself in a corner. I'm bound by the specification. And they would try to look for things they could amend a claim to overcome a 101. And sometimes they couldn't find anything because the spec was drafted in such a way that there wasn't sort of an out that they could rely on, right, to amend the claim, to have support in the spec. So yeah, it's super complicated. Yeah.
So what do you see are like the path forward for, let's start with Prevail.
Honestly, you have to just push forward if you believe in something and be optimistic, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the path forward is iterating, getting people to understand what these bills do and why it's so important to have these changes codified into law, right?
Yeah.
To keep that, to establish stability and certainty, right? Predictability. Otherwise, you don't. I mean, again, we can talk about this later, but when I was working with Andre, and we did the PEG, the Patent Eligibility Guidance.
Andre Yankova,
yeah,
former director.
Yeah, former director under the first Trump administration. I was super proud of that. It was amazing.
And you were, just for background, you were at the USPTO as a senior advisor.
Yeah, I was a career, but I was pulled up by Andre and Brendan McComas, who was chief of staff, as special advisor to Andre, and he wanted someone, again, I think similar to how I came to Senator Tillis, someone that had that actual firsthand knowledge of, like, how did it work when you examined under 101, right? And then I was a supervisor of the PTO. So how did it work when you were looking at, dozens of examiners work under 101? And then I had lots of roles at PTO. So that ability to sort of see the actual impact of it. But all that to say, amazing changes that really did help dial things in the PTO, but the courts aren't bound by it. They don't follow it. And so you really need the two branches to work together to affect meaningful change that's long lasting, and it gives those folks the idea that when there's a new administration or even a new head at an agency that something's not going to be rolled back or changed so drastically. So